bad. Hello, friends. Hang tight over in TikTok world. Let's get the over here. Uh-oh. Copy. Oof. All right. For some reason, I'm not able to connect over on Instagram. All right. So, hey, Meg. TikTok will be fun, but you guys will be able to actually see. Oh, hang on. I don't even have this turned on right. I just realized I'm like videoing my wall. There we go. Hi, friends. All right. So you'll be able to see all of our guests actually on YouTube.
Ooh.
Instagram might not be working. And I'm not sure what the deal is. I know what I'll do.
Man, I tried to hair today and it just not having it today.
I didn't even, I have a crown, a new crown to wear. I got this at Halloween Spirit Fest. How fun is this?
Cute.
This is not like the most obnoxious and amazing thing all at once.
I absolutely love that. And like, it's raining here, so I could feel like the humidity in my hair is like starting to rise. And then I couldn't find a bang straightener, so I could, like bevel these pretty little goth bangs, and now they're wonky.
Yeah.
Good
morning, Tim. Good morning, Heather. All right, hang tight, friends. I'm working on getting Instagram going. Apparently, it has rejected my initial request to do the thing. Copy. Let's see. Edit. Look at me figuring things out. Maybe.
You think you'd be an expert by now?
I'm not. Like, I'm literally still figuring this out. Okay, I may not be able to do Instagram today. I had created the live, but it's now rejecting me.
But you promised.
I did promise. I'm so sorry. Okay, well, we may not be on Instagram today. All right, well, we'll do YouTube and all the other things. Happy Halloween, everybody. So I'm going to go back. Also, where's Brian? We're waiting on Brian. Let me find him. Okay. Are you able to log in? Okay. Wait, where'd that go? Okay, well, there we go. Hopefully we can get him on. So how's it going? Talk amongst yourselves. We're talking about all kinds of cool stuff. You guys over in TikTok world, you're gonna be able to see our guests on YouTube. They're all gonna be YouTube and Facebook. On my Lorenda Carr Medium page. Well, now I gotta find you all. Where are you? There you are. Entirely two tabs open. All right, let's see. Hey, Yessie. All right, so if you guys want to see our guests, somebody go over in YouTube. Can you guys see our guests okay?
Say that again.
Oh no, I was asking my YouTube people and anybody else. Hi, Sherilyn. Can you guys see our guests okay? This is the first time I've pulled people into YouTube like this. Just waiting. I'm seeing lots of hi, but I'm not seeing any yeses. I need people to say, yes, we see everybody. And I don't know where Brian is. Oh, wait. What? Oh, geez. Okay. I got to resend him the link. Well, hang on. Invite. Yeah, this is by the way, this is new for me, bringing people into this forum. So I wasn't quite sure how to make that happen. But I think we're going to have it. I think we're doing it. It would probably be helpful if I actually sent Brian the link. That might be helpful. He should pop on any second now. All right, you guys, if you want to see our guests, welcome. Happy Halloween. The guests, head over to YouTube. Otherwise, you can listen. You'll hear him just fine. All right. He should be popping in here in a minute. Okay, perfect, Nancy. Oh, Nancy Dorland's in here. Now, are you guys able to see comments at all? Eleanor and Kim, are you able to see comments at all?
Oh, there they are. Yep. I had the wrong thing clicked. I see him now.
And there's Brian. Yay, I'm going to add him to the stage. I see him now. And there's Brian. Yay, I'm going to add him to the stage.
Oh, yeah.
Mute yourselves. Not mute yourselves, but like turn your volume down so where we can't hear you.
That was my problem. I'm sorry.
Way to go, Brian. All right. Everybody's here. I figured it out. So it's been an eventful morning. So I was up early and normally like I had planned on wearing this fabulous costume. But I literally ran in on ready to go because I was at the ER this morning getting my knee fixed. It's still not fixed, but I have crutches. So I'm so excited, you guys. All right. So everybody, we have our special guest. We've got Eleanor Little, Brian Peters, and so two mediums and the keeper of the keys. I just love calling Kim that now. Keeper of the keys. This is true. She has all the keys to Camp Chesterfield. So what we're talking about today, first of all, happy Halloween. And what we're talking about today is our adventures this weekend. We had no idea things were going to play out the way they were going to play out this weekend. And I am here for it. So we had special investigation. So let me back up. Kim, our amazing Kim, keeper of the keys, plans like pretty much all the events. Am I right?
All of the big events, all the festivals.
The festivals. So yeah. She's the one that I bribed to get me good spots. I'm kidding. I don't bribe her.
She doesn't have to. It happened once and she just kept the spot.
That's right. That's right. It's a vibe. I just keep the spot. And so Kim actually is like the head honcho. We all worship the ground she walks upon, so we get good spots. But also I wanted Kim to come because not only did she help organize everything, but she got to witness a lot of things. So she's not a psychic medium. I feel like I'm going to be a Holiday Inn commercial right now. I'm not a psychic medium, but I'm married to one.
Yeah, that's right.
You live on the Camp Chesterfield grounds, which is pretty awesome. I might do that someday. I don't know. We'll see. I'd be a good neighbor, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like if I went to my husband and said, I have an idea, honey, that would really go over well.
I think you'd have a hard time convincing him of that one.
I feel like you're right. But if somehow I made it a tax deduction, he might.
Yeah.
He might. We're all looking for those. And so Kim got to witness a lot of things. And we've got Eleanor, so for those of you who watched the live on Sunday, Eleanor is the one you could hear and like she waved and she's just a badass medium and she's awesome. And I can't wait for you guys to get to know her. And then in this process, I also met Brian, who is also a psychic medium, but he's the dude that showed up with the equipment. He was asking all the questions and he's got all his own gig. So what I'd like to do, that's my perspective of all of you. I'd like to give you each a minute to like just kind of explain like how you see yourself and what you do. And I had a really great list of questions and that's upstairs and I'm not using my crutches to go get them.
It's fine. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. So Brian, why don't you start and let's tell us kind of about what you do about Healing Brew, and your investigations and what you were doing at Camp Chesterfield.
So my name is Brian. I am one of the owners of the Healing Brew in Akron, Ohio. We're a metaphysical tea shop. We do a bunch of classes, special events. We have a large Victorian tea coming up. So we do all the fun stuff, but also we also take part in a lot of paranormal investigations, just like we did at Camp Chesterfield as far as doing spirit quests. The idea is we really look at this a little bit different than a lot of the other teams because it's more looked upon as respecting spirit. We're not out there trying to get reactions. We get them simply by showing up and being respectful. And Lorenda, I'm sure you can agree to that. Approaching in a respectful manner and asking for them to participate, you get a completely different vibration. You get a completely different behavior than going in there and trying to demand it. And that's basically what we do. That's what we try to do. It's really just looking at spirit as everything was, everything walked this world at one point, and it's just being respectful to it and seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do love that. I think as mediums, we tend to be more respectful anyway, because we get a whole perspective of spirit and how they come through. So I love that. Yay. Thank you. All right, Eleanor, tell us what you like to do. And your costume's amazing, by the way.
Oh no, this is me.
That's true.
But I did wear my little earrings for this special occasion.
I love it.
I'm a certified medium through Camp Chesterfield. I'm also a certified spiritual healer. I was a certified medium since 2012. For me, I'm kind of the old-fashioned mediums. I like to do stand-up clairvoyance instead of not so much particularly using tools, but I really rely on like my own gifts of the spirit and that sort of thing. And so for this spirit demonstration this past weekend, it was a whole different experience for me to bring in like electronic tools to measure of the activity and to actually see it. I'm somebody that is a research mind. At one point in my nursing career, I was a research nurse, so I really truly value those components of research and the validity of things. So having all of this equipment here to where we could actually not only see things with our physical eyes, but when you pull in like the pictures and things like that, you're able to see all different aspects of what was occurring for this weekend. It was truly awesome.
I think it was mind blowing, to be honest, because you're right. I don't use equipment typically. If I go on a paranormal investigation, I just walk around. I am the equipment.
Exactly.
And plus, there's so many, and I think Brian, you can talk about this too as we move along. But not only that, like we're so evidence based, and there are just so many tools out there. But we'll circle back to that in a little bit. Kim, thank you, Eleanor. Kim, tell me, like, you're like, I don't know why.
So oddly enough, by trade, I'm a police officer. I am still a working police officer. I teach police investigation related courses at the university level. But I also work here at Camp Chesterfield. I'm building and grounds maintenance, and I run all the festivals. I coordinate and run all the festivals. So I do wear a lot of different hats. I am married to Meg, who is a medium. We live here on the grounds. And that's how I got into it. She wanted to come here. We had friends that lived here. They've since moved away, but that's okay. But that's how I met Lorenda too. So Lorenda's been coming here. And that's not how I met her. I didn't meet her actually through mediumship. I met her through tap dance, and I've helped her and her crew do some different things on the carpentry side of things. But so that's kind of funny how that worked out too. But then she started coming to the festivals, and we got to know each other a little bit better. And then through the festivals is how I hooked up with Brian, and we brought this spirit quest or paranormal investigation here to camp, and it was quite the success this last weekend. So the investigation that they did on Sunday and we put out there live was pretty spectacular. And I am a very grounded individual. I like to see a lot of evidence. So so there's a lot of things that I'm pretty skeptical of, but I am here to tell you that it was very real. It was there was a lot of evidence that they were able to support all of this with, and I was standing right there witnessing all of it. So it was pretty cool.
So what would, yes, somebody said, yeah, Amanda said, Kim is a superhero. She is.
I wear a cape, not a hat. Is that?
Absolutely.
That's a really great idea, actually. I'll wear the crowns. I'll get you a cape. Okay. So it's a new mission now. But no, I do have so much respect for you, Kim, because you're still in it and you witness it, even though, again, you're not this on the spiritual side of it.
Right.
So what was your takeaway? Like the thing on Sunday, what was your overall impression? Like tell me a little bit more what you experienced just watching and observing, since you know me, so I'm not going to be like, woo, la, 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 la. I was freaking out.
Yeah, you were.
You don't do that.
So they're towards the end, if you guys watched the video, which I'm assuming you did, and that's probably why you're here, when Lorenda gets kind of all hyped up and you can tell that she's really feeling it. I was probably a good 10, 15 yards away from her, across, opposite the room of her. And I don't sense things and hear things the way that mediums do, but I felt an energy come over me when all of the equipment started going off. And I equate it, and afterwards I was talking to Lorenda and Brian, and I equate it to, there was a time where I was working on a house and I stuck my hand in an electric panel and accidentally touched the active electric panel thinking that it was off. And I felt that electrical surge go all through my body. And that's what I felt from head to toe. And it was in tune with what Lorenda was feeling. So while I didn't hear what she was hearing and I did not see or sense anything else, that sensation came over my body. Just that energy, that electric energy, if you will, filled my body from across the room. And from, I guess, in addition to that, I don't have a whole lot of historic knowledge of the camp, but, from living here for a few years and being around for 6 or 7, however long we've been coming here, I know enough history. And it was actually me that went to Brian and said, hey, ask the question if that's Dawn. Ask Dawn if that's who's talking to Lorenda right now, and if that's who's in the room with us. And for those that don't know, there's an individual that's been writing a movie script about Donald Keeler, who was a young individual that passed away. He drowned in the river while visiting the grounds here. He had a relative that lived on the grounds, and he had gone out to the river, and he died, got pulled under in a current, and he ended up drowning and dying. So that's who came to visit Lorenda in that particular moment.
And that was wild, because how you described it, like that current, that's what it felt like. Because I've done plenty of trance work. I work with Reverend Glenda, like I've worked with a number of, been in the room with a number of people and done trance work, and it's a whole different cellular vibration. This was freaking electricity. And it was wild, because I don't remember saying, I remember saying, who are you? But I thought it was in my head. When I watched the video, I'm like, wow, I look interesting. I felt like I was freaking out, looking like I was freaking out, but I wasn't. I was like, come on, tell me. I was more hyped to try to get the information. So that's cool. I didn't realize that you're the one that said, Brian asked about Don. I'm like, how do you know to ask about Don? Because none of you knew about the dowsing rods. I hadn't told anybody that day before I had gone in, and the dowsing rods took me to his portrait.
Yeah, and we had heard that. I don't know if Brian had told anybody, but we had heard that from multiple individuals that they had, I guess, just assumed that it's the largest. That rose painting is one of the largest paintings in that room, if not the largest. And I guess one would just assume that that's where your dowsing rods would focus. But yeah, it's Don's photo or painting was very strong for a lot of people in that.
And see, I didn't know. Okay, so Brian, you as the facilitator, tell me kind of where your thoughts were. And because I do want to go through some of the pieces as I rewatched it. Again, great notes upstairs.
We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. We'll fly by the seat of our pants. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is I love when spirit shows up like this. I think a lot of people out there use the equipment and they're more, I'm going to say they're looking for like that big energy coming in. And sometimes they think if they put out that negative energy or if they yell at spirit or whatever, that it doesn't show up. And when in reality, I think we were the complete opposite. We were being very respectful, trying to have an experience and have them step forward and provide evidence. And I think that's really what this is all about, especially when you have multiple pieces of equipment that all went off at the same time. So this was not just the REM pod. This was not just the K2. We had all these pieces going off. So each one could have malfunctioned by itself, but to have three pieces all go off at the same time is absolutely incredible. And that provides that evidence piece for the researchers' minds, for the skeptic minds, because you can rationale one away, but you can't rationale now all of them away. And that's
because they're all independent of each other. They're not like tied into one app or tied into one thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, even just looking at the voice aspect with the headphones, that was a completely different situation as well, because there is no canned voices. There is no canned material. They have to manipulate that device to create that voice. And we had the voice backing it up saying, here we come, we're bringing it. And then all of a sudden they brought it.
I heard myself say, bringing it. And all of a sudden things like went nuts. That was so crazy. And what's funny is when I came out of that, I'm like, why is all this equipment around me? Because you guys moved it in. I didn't even know it was around me.
And that's
because
part of
I was in my zone.
That's part of the reason why those headphones and the blackout method is so incredible, is because the person listening to the headphone is not manipulated with anything going on. They can't even hear the questions. And I don't think that was really clear, that you, as you were sitting there, you could not hear me talk or anyone in the room. It was absolutely dead silent. And all you had was this chatter and buzz in the background. It really was just a very light chatter and buzz. For anybody who's used Phasmabox in the past knows that it's just chatter that you're really paying attention to. And these words come through and the words are created. So, and not only that, I will bring up one other point. All those different devices all did different things. So not only did we have a K2 go off, we had the REM pod go off, which now is that static kinetic energy. And then we even had the other equipment telling us who it was. So we had a trifecta as that information showed up, which is incredible.
Can you explain really quick for those who are a little more skeptical about the equipment itself? One thing that you explained to me, because we had Eleanor and I had gone with you into the Sunflower the night before, or the day before, and let us kind of play with the headphones. And can you explain like the difference between like a spirit box or an app on the phone versus what you had us listening to?
So absolutely. So spirit boxes, what they tend to do is they tend to scan radio frequencies. Normally what they do is they break them. And so it's just flying through the radio channel. So you might hear a 9, you might hear a 5, you may hear the word wolf, whatever you're hearing in that succession of the radio playing. That's one variation. Another one is the ones that have the pre-programmed databases. There's a lot out there that actually have words or things that are predetermined. The software we were using had none of that. The spirit actually has to step in, manipulate the device to create anything. Anything you're hearing, spirit is using the energy around it to create it. And so you have to figure it out and how to pay attention. Side note, everybody who wants to go out there and download an app do me a favor, don't do it. Download a good quality app, or it's just going to open up situations that are not in legitimacy or anything like that. And that's really the name of the game. You want to approach this in the right way. And if you're looking for evidence, you gotta collect it the right way.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, okay, so now Eleanor, I want to hear your perspective. When you were filming it, I heard you say, I just felt something in my leg. Like, so tell me, like, when all that played out, or you can just talk about your experience throughout the whole thing. Like, how were you feeling? Like, what were you noticing? I don't know if you actually see spirit, if you're a person who sees it, or if it's a clairvoyant. Like, tell me what was your experience during that time?
Quick interjection. I don't know if anybody else can hear me, but I can't hear anyone anymore.
Uh-oh, we can hear you. Okay. Maybe pop out and come in. Let's see. Hold on. Let me edit mic settings. Hang on.
Yeah, I can't hear anyone.
Okay, hold on. No, I'm seeing if I can change here. Go out.
Go out and then come back in.
Mhm.
Okay, let me try that.
Okay. It's because spirits messing with her, probably interfering. All right, so hopefully we'll bring her back in, because I know she was feeling stuff, and I'm really curious to know, for everybody else to hear her perspective on it, because we only talked for a little bit after it was over. There was a lot that we talked about after the camera stopped rolling, and kind of decompressing it all. So
One of the things too I think is interesting is, as mediums and psychics, we talk tools, right? We talk about using tarot cards, oracle cards, all those things. And I mean, even getting back into the old fashioned raps and taps, looking at that as evidence of spirit. I think people don't always realize there's a lot of new technology out there that allows a new approach and a new technology to this. And so it's really taking what has happened all the way through and bringing it forward in a new way. Sorry, I was talking. I filled up your time, Eleanor. I apologize.
it's fine. It's better than me talking. All right, can you hear okay?
Yes, now so my take on it, when we were talking about Don's little boy, so for me, specifically, a medium, whenever a child presence, I always feel them like come and grip my legs, and right the equipment started to go off, and we could like feel energy just really surge through the room. I felt something just grab to my leg, and it felt like electricity shooting up my right and up my left, and I could go all the way to like the top of my head, and it was just completely phenomenal. Everybody in the room experiencing something over, and so it's just like this energy grab onto my leg. So what you're telling me is it was child energy. That's when I could hear whispering in the back, Don, who's Don? And then, that conversation started. So I thought that was really interesting, that we all had, positive correlations about the information that we shared. Even if it wasn't being obviously, it was still, there was a definite positive correlation for all of it. Now I can't hear Lorenda.
It was me. I was muting. I was muting in case, because I'm getting a lot of background noise. So I was like, oh, maybe if I mute, it'll reduce some of the background noise. So yeah, I was curious as a medium, because again, typically we don't refer to that energy as electric feeling. It doesn't feel electric typically. Spirit is so subtle, and like that's why it takes training. Like we don't get those, we don't get big crazy energy surges like that. So it's interesting that you use that terminology too, of feeling like electricity. So as a medium, what are your thoughts on why did that happen? Like, why was it so different? Do you think?
I think that because we were all in the room, and the energy that we ourselves were putting off, I think that that really had a lot to do with the way that the spirits were able to interact and even connect with us, because we weren't antagonizing or trying to provoke anyone. We were just trying to initiate an intelligent conversation between the spirits, and we were very respectful. Like Brian may have mentioned, there were games, but it was always, the spirit, they have their own free will too. So if they don't want to participate, that's fine. And we weren't, like name calling, oh, you better participate with us. No, it wasn't, of that nature. So because I think that we provided this, very welcoming and supportive environment. And I do believe that there were many other spirits all at the same time that they wanted to communicate and let their presence be known, that we had this mass surge of energy that was felt by everybody in the room, that it could be measured and calculated by the equipment, that the certified and the trained mediums, we all felt something, to the degree of, if you, as I had mentioned, like for me specifically, when I feel children, this is my signal for that, and somebody might have something else, and that's how their training is, and that's fine. But we all had something. And the most interesting part of it is that we all had something at the same time. You could feel that energy build and then go through the room, and the whole dynamic of the room changed. Everybody was aware of it. You could feel like the electricity, you could feel like the hair standing up, like whether it's on the back of your neck or if it's on your arms, you could feel that energy just, radiating off of you everywhere. So it was a really interesting experience.
I think it's interesting that you brought that up because at the same time when this was all going down, I felt like someone like kicked me in the gut because you just felt that deep energy move through, and it just presented itself. It was great in that sense. It wasn't negative. I don't want anybody out here to say any of this was a negative sensation. It was
No,
just incredible. I mean, it was just a huge, credible experience.
absolutely. Absolutely. I could feel that energy. It started like, in my thighs, and it completely rolled up my spine all the way to like my crown chakra. And I could just feel it.
And I don't know if Lorenda even knew. We were singing songs prior to that. We were singing a little bit of music just to help raise that vibration. And a lot of times using that music that they're associated with, or the music that they would have sang, sometimes helps raise that energy even more so than yelling at somebody or something like that.
Absolutely.
And Michael's in the chat right now. Michael Black, who was there, right? That's Michael Black is the one that was there, right? I'm just making sure. But he's saying Spirit loves to mess with the electronics, and it was all positive. That was his take as well. Like it was all positive. Weird and strange, but positive. So now, Kim, you being the police officer in the room and the one who tends to observe people more, what were you noticing about because we had a crowd of people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
There were a number of people on there. Like, what were you hearing or observing from them?
I think the biggest thing that was the reaction out of folks, and at times the verbal reaction out of them, the audible reaction out of folks. There was at one moment you called out the name of an individual who was actually sitting in the room. Do you guys remember that, Eleanor and Brian? Yeah. So now we don't know whether or not they were trying to connect in with her, or if that was an individual that was visiting. I don't know that we ever got confirmation of that, but yeah, she was rather floored by that, if you will. And there were several of us that were standing up, and we were told to sit down. So we did. Those of us that were standing up immediately sat down. They did not like it. Whoever was there with us did not like the fact that we were standing in their space. So we did as we were told. But yeah, it was very energetic. It was very positive, and it just that overwhelming sense that there was an individual there with you, but yet you know that there's physically they're not, but yet they are. So it's just, it's an interesting feeling, but when you have the evidence that goes along with it, that's what makes it real. That's what gives that confirmation. That's what makes it so cool.
Yeah. So, and I don't care who wants to go first, but what would you say outside of the whole bring it and they stepped into the craziness? So yeah, Mary. Oh yeah. Let me go back. So remember, Brian, the day before the first class that I took with you, because Kim was like, "You're gonna take the class." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Maybe I'll do that." Kim was selling it hard. I loved it. That name Miriam did come up. Do you remember that at the Sunflower? And it was
I do.
Investigation. And I feel like mediumistically, even though I wasn't plugged in mediumistically, I totally was, but I felt like that was her.
I do too. And I don't know if she was in the room that day as well or not. So that's the other thing. She was not. So
She was not.
So
yeah, I don't think she was. I think she joined us that afternoon, and then or maybe the previous night, and then came back that afternoon.
Yeah, like, so there was definitely that interesting conversation. There was a lot of spirits throughout the day that decided to chat on multiple levels. You actually had them talking a lot, as far as we would talk to somebody the one day, and then we were able to step right back in and be like, "Hey, is James here?" and get that conversation back out and initiated. So I don't know. I think this might have been a conversation where someone was trying to get a message across, because she actually was trying to, she thought at one point her grandma was there earlier in the day, as far as the headset was. And it's interesting, you pulled her name later on. So it was really interesting.
And in different locations then.
Yep.
Yes, different locations, different buildings, different day. But also, as a medium, when we do platform work, we realize that when we deliver a message, it can be twofold, what we call postcards. So that could have been a different spirit, but it could have also been her grandmother coming in to validate. So I don't necessarily put the parameters on how, like, what that means or who that was. It could have been both. It really could have. And it could just be a spirit guide coming in and going, "Hey, say Miriam." Remember that time they said Miriam yesterday? I feel like spirits got jokes.
100,000%. And also too, if you guys notice, when we're getting ready to start, I always ask, is there somebody who wants to play with us? And that's the way I approach this. I'm looking for those that want to play, those that are willing to step forward and have fun with us, because doing like the numbers, the counting, or trying to do cards is playing. It's just a different way to validate. And I think it's incredible when that validation comes through the way it does.
So what I thought was funny is they were all about the counting, but they wanted nothing to do with those cards outside of there's a person on the one card.
Yeah.
Yep. But also think about the era. A lot of times the older style religious people did not like playing cards. There was a level to playing cards that they would not have liked. So if you're thinking about the era they would have been from, and that era of camp, they might not have wanted anything to do with those cards just because it wasn't used.
I was thinking about that. I was actually thinking, what if either they don't know because they're around, not a regular card. What if they don't know what spades are? What if they don't know? And at one point, one of them I thought said love, or one of the words came out was love. And I thought maybe they were looking for hearts, but they weren't. They named the first card that you brought out and gave no time to, by the way. You're like, and okay, but what about this? Then they called you out. They're like, slow down. Or I can't remember what they said, but they basically were like, give us a minute.
Did you pay attention when you said love? I had asked, is there somebody who has a message? And they said love. And if you look at the K2, it's flashing at like a heartbeat. When you watch
Michael, yeah, because I think I heard either you or Michael or Eleanor, somebody in the background said, "Oh, look, it's like a heartbeat." I think it may have been Eleanor.
Yeah, you could see it as, yep, it was definitely you. And you could see that beat, and it was just insane that went along with the message that was coming through.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it was just such a cool in that, even that 35 minutes, that's all it was 35 minutes. I feel like it was so much longer, but when I watch it, because so much came out. The other thing that really was mind blowing to me, and I don't know if you guys caught this, is when I went back and watched the video. Also, welcome everybody. What we're talking about, and you can go watch this full video. I just posted it raw, unedited, full video on YouTube for the Camp Chesterfield spontaneous investigation. Go watch that, because you're gonna see everything that we're talking about. And it was just cool, because at one point you said somebody wants you to say the word happy. And actually it's one of my oh my goodness, she literally just came into the TikTok room. Tracy, we're talking about you. It's like she just popped in. That's hilarious. Go to YouTube so you can see what we're doing over here. Because it was her that said happy, like say happy. And what was interesting is the words that followed were feeling. Like they weren't going to say happy, but they were saying it's a feeling. And then they had me laugh, because laughing is a happy feeling, right? So it was interesting how they got the information to come out, which happens in a reading. Like the medium, sometimes we'll get the most random words. We don't know what they mean, but then the person sitting in front of you was like falling out of their chair laughing, like there's no way you could have known that was a thing. And then the way they explain it had nothing to do with what you thought it could be or how you got that information, but it meant the world to them. You know, that and so I believe that spirit was in that moment trying to give us more than just the word happy. You know, I feel like spirit was just trying to chime in a little bit more. So let me think. What are some of the other? There were a couple other ones that I just thought fascinating.
Can I throw one from the night before? Remember, yes. So Meg was in the room with us, and we were, and Mabel Riffle was bantering with her, giving her the riot act. And when we actually look back at the photos, that's when all those heads were in the room. In that one photo, you saw all the like multiple heads in the room, and Charles actually identified the one as her. So it's really insane that he wasn't even in the space and was able to come up with that. So this is where I go. We had evidence upon evidence to back all this up. And that's the name of the game. And we all know as mediums, that's the name of the game. If you can provide unquizzable evidence, there has to be something there. There has to be something more here. Whatever that looks like, there has to be something more.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Eleanor, you went to the investigation the night before, right? I only went to a short one in the afternoon. Yeah. So tell me, what was your experience as the medium and as doing the evidence, like the full experience? Tell me what your thoughts were on that.
So I was so impressed that I actually went to both nights. So for me, I always get kind of like skeptical when I see things like this. But for the first night that I went, I believe it was Friday night, we put on the headphones, and that in itself was a completely different experience. But whenever you would ask questions, then they started to respond with like bangs, knocks. At one point, a friend and I, we were sitting next to like a corridor with the door open, and she had the headphones on and, answering questions and going through that whole conversation. And the people in that immediate area, it got extremely cold, almost to the point like you could see your breath coming out. It just became like immensely cold very quickly. You could see like ectoplasm just moving around in the red light. Then when we went to the cathedral, there was some other intelligent conversation where some of the other participants, they were using like one of the talking boxes. I don't know the verbiage or the terminology, what that specific equipment is, but I was observing them, and they said, okay, spirit, if you're here, this is what we're going to do. We are going to like list fruit. And so I'm going to say something, and then I want you to reply back. And as I'm watching, one lady said apple, and then you could hear on the voice box pear. And it just kept going like this banter back and forth. And it didn't, at first you think, well, okay, maybe that's a fluke, whatever. So then they would change it to trees, to numbers, to, like different topics. And there was always that intelligent conversation that it just kept replying. Um, then there were other times, one of my favorite times is when I got to wear the headphones in the cathedral for the first night, and a spirit individual came through and they were not speaking English, and I got really excited for that. I know that later somebody came up to me and said that I was trying to speak, Spanish to you because you kept saying like different numbers and things like that. And I do remember like they were saying numbers, and I heard the term comida, and I was really excited for that because it wasn't, like we had this influx of energy that was just coming from all avenues, but you could ask a question and there would definitely be some type of reply. Some of the spirits, they definitely had a sense of humor, and they would crack jokes, about this or that, or, like trying to set up a cabinet there on the cathedral. And so it was just really interesting all around. But my favorite part was watching, the spirit communication and actually hearing it and observing it with the equipment, the reply to it. It wasn't, just like, oh, I'm just going to throw out a random word. No, these were actual sentences, like a sentence structure that you would hear in the headphones, and that you could repeat it out. So it was truly phenomenal all the way around.
One of the things I also liked on that Saturday, I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday night, but we were asking spirit if they could knock for us. They said they were somewhere in the building, and Friday night, because we kept asking them if they were present, could they knock for us? And we actually had them knocking at parts in the building. So you actually heard them in the distance knocking as we were asking them to knock, which was incredible because we were asking where they were and could you show us?
And then you could hear them reply. And then at one point, there was like a massive bang. And the people that were facing in that corridor, we all said at the same time, "Did you see that?" Because you could physically see something move across in that hallway. And then again, my friend, she was sitting next to me. She had the headphones on. And I can't remember like what the question was, like, where are you from or something like that. And then you heard a big bang down in that hallway. So that was really cool too.
I'm so sad I did not go to that. So sad. But also the cathedral. Let's talk about the cathedral really quick. That was closed for how many years, Kim? Until the keeper of the keys showed up. The keys.
I think we're figuring about 20 years that it was closed up. It was opened, people were in it, but it wasn't actually like functioning. Nothing in it was really running. So probably about 20 years that it was kind of closed down. But yeah, we brought it back to life last year and put a lot of love into it. And so yeah, it was fun to be in there.
Now, when you were doing all that construction and working on it, have you had any experiences? Well, I guess you can talk about your experiences as the muggle in the room.
So that was the comment that I made to Brian and his crew, was that they were kind of bugging me to go out with them, to go on the quest with them on Friday night. And I was still setting up for the festival Friday night. So I said, no, I can't. I'm still working, and well, you got to go with us. I said, you know what? I don't know if I want to, because I have to work in these buildings alone, So, while I'm not necessarily scared, I don't know that I want to know what's in there. So I kind of gave in and went Saturday, and I'm glad that I did. Not that I was afraid, if you will, that there was anything bad in there or anything that was going to harm me in any way. But it's just kind of that lurking sense that there's somebody hanging around you, I guess. But yeah, when I go in the buildings on a daily basis, I get that sense that there's an entity there. And Meg has always told me, you just got to tell him to back off. And I have found myself at times, no, just let me do what I need to do. and I'll get out of your way, So I have found myself doing that. And I found myself doing that when I first went into the cathedral. But I spent so much time in there. I mean, hours in that cathedral fixing it up. And at times until midnight, 2:00 in the morning, working in there, just trying to get it ready for last year's Spirit Fest. And because that's when we kind of officially reopened it. And I would play music in there to help me pass the time and work with music. And we kind of got comfortable with one another, if you will. There's spaces in there that I'm more comfortable than others. I don't like going in the basement. I do not like going in the basement of that building at all. The sunflower is not a fun one for me, just because it's dark and drab anyway, and that one's all boarded up, and it's hard to move throughout that one anyway. But yeah, I feel things in there, and it makes it a little difficult to work at times. But that was my comment to Brian and Michael was, I don't know. And I told Brian when I went out with him Saturday, I said, don't you do anything extra special with me. And what's he do? I'm the first one that he puts headphones on and makes
I had to.
But it was a good experience. And I had a lot of fun with it. So it was, I didn't get a whole lot in the sunflower, but when we went to the cathedral, I was much more comfortable in there. I think because I have had more of a connection with that building and spent more time in there with those folks, if you will.
And also, too, what was really neat, too, was in the cathedral, Cheryl was just talking about it, we actually had thermal in there. And you could actually see, they actually had a full-bodied apparition appear on the thermal. So you had that show up in the thermal camera. I will post pictures of it once we pull it off the device so everybody can see. But we actually had that apparition show up. So definitely that is one of those situations or conversations where you do want to at least acknowledge that, like, we had a lot of stuff going on. And I think the problem is, and I'm going to address someone's comment, that I think the problem is we get into this mindset when it comes to spirit quests, when it comes into all these different things, people forget you can ask spirit for whatever. You really, truly can. And then if you're putting out the negative, you're going to get the negative. How many spaces are you telling spirit, hey, this spirit scratched me, or this spirit, this, that, or the other? And all you're asking for is you're repetitively asking for it. And if you're putting out those bad experiences, you're going to get them. It's the evidence at the end of the day. It's the proof behind it. And so what you really need to do is don't give into the fear. Don't give into that, and trust your instincts and understand that there's nothing out there that's going to hurt you. It'd be just like what I always tell people. Would you be angry if you met my grandma? So why are you worried about her meeting when she's dead?
Excellent point. Wow. Okay. Overtime practice. Oh, okay. Somebody was asking questions. Oh yeah. Michael was saying it was in the back hallway of the cathedral. I'm kind of going through these.
Yeah, to give you a little bit of perspective, the back hallway. So the cathedral, for those of you that don't know, it's set up like a large auditorium, and there's, I forget how many seats we counted in there, but there's several. It's a large building, and there's a stage, and then behind the stage there's what they refer to as the mediums room. So where all the mediums would sit and get ready, kind of like a green room, if you will. And then on the other side of the stage, backstage, is what was used as the choir room, where all the music equipment is back there, the sound equipment, and the choir would get ready back there when they had a choir. So where they did their work during their investigation during those evenings was in the mediums room. So that's where they had seen this. The full-bodied individual was in the hallway towards that mediums room. So it's pretty cool. It does not surprise me at all that that's where you would have seen that.
No, because that's where we all gathered our energy.
Yeah.
So that was pretty spectacular. I've read on a lot of stages, but the cathedral, the energy that comes back there before you got on the stage is incredible in that building.
Well, and even before any of these group settings started, on Friday when the Healing Brew group came in, we were touring the various buildings that they were going to be using. And we went into the cathedral and walked up stage right, up the stairs from the floor level. And they had just a flashlight on, and the flashlight was flickering and shutting off, and they verified, yes, it's turned on. It is screwed in all the way. And it was, and I said, that doesn't surprise me either, because that's just walking up that stairway. At times when I go up there, because I have to go all the way backstage to the electrical panel to turn on all of the lights. And that's one of those areas that kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies, if you will, is walking up that staircase. And at times, if it gets a little too intense, I'll walk all the way around to the other staircase and go up the other side so that I can avoid it. So it was pretty cool. There was a lot of stuff that a lot of people experienced, and I was pretty impressed, and I think a lot of other people were too. So we'll definitely have to do it again, Brian.
I'm all about it. I think it's a different way of approaching it. And, we talk seances, we talk about a lot of this stuff. And I think this is, in some ways, I tell people all the time, this is the modern variation of a seance in some ways. You're seeing what's there, you're asking them to talk and using equipment in a different way. And it's just asking them to show up. And I think that's always what it is, I put out the intention. I'm looking for people who want to play, people who are willing to do this versus spirit who wants to show up and not want to interact and me have to engage them or whatever, who in their right mind wants to be bantered with, who wants to be nagged. Think of your little 2-year-old kid coming up and, eventually you turn around and say, leave me alone, even if you love them dearly. But at the same time, it's like, leave me alone. You know what I mean? So you wonder why we get some of those responses that we do at points. And so that's why I always ask for those that are wanting to play. And then there's stuff that we do to verify that it's intelligent. And I think that becomes problematic as well. A lot of people, when they're investigating, worry about the non-intelligent spirits versus worrying about the intelligent spirits. And sometimes that's a bigger conversation here. Is you want to pay attention to the ones that are making sense, not the ones that are not, because they're just trying to figure things out.
So, but I feel like that's actually, what's funny is my mind was kind of going there. And when people do investigations, a lot of times you'll hear investigators go, oh, that spirit's stuck. They need me to move them over. Now, I'm not a big believer in that. That's just me. But so Brian, in all your vast investigations, what has been your experience with that? Like, do you feel like there are spirits that are stuck, or are they just in different places? Or like, what's been your perspective as the medium and the investigator?
So I think part of the problem here is when we're using the word stuck, I think part of this conversation is, think about how many people, and I don't mean anything by this, they trip, they fall, they're laying on the ground, and they're just looking for someone to help them at the end. Or somebody who is transitioning and is just fearful of that transition. And so I think sometimes this stuff that's left over, this residual, the help me's and some of that is just left over from those experiences. Because a lot of times when you ask them, help me with what, they don't have a follow-up. It's just, they just repeat the term, help me. And I think sometimes we're so quick to jump into it and force people along, when in reality, sometimes you just have to have a conversation. And when you have the equipment, you have to, yes, as a medium, I'm going to lead the questions, but you got to trust the equipment. You got to trust the evidence, because it's evidence at the end of the day. And that's the name of the game.
Interesting.
Was that not the answer you wanted?
Kind of. I'm always curious to hear other people's perspectives. People who do this regularly. Like I literally dabble in paranormal investigations. It's not, I have a team that I work with a lot. But ultimately what I do is I'll go through the building, I'll feel things, but then ultimately I go sit in a room and I do readings for the guests that are there for the investigation. So I've been to as an investigator, but again, I don't show up with equipment. And I have yet to feel a stuck spirit, but that could be because of where I keep my vibration.
Absolutely.
So I do try to be realistic. And when I do feel something that's, I like how you put it, it feels like it's on a loop. It feels like it's not necessarily a stuck spirit. It's just a stuck energy.
Yep,
The
it's
spirit's
echo.
not stuck. It's an echo. Yes, echo or other energy there. But I don't see it as somebody going, help, I can't go to heaven without your help.
We even get in, and I'm gonna throw a buzzword out, and I apologize for all those people out there. You can send me hate mail if you want. The term poltergeist. We hear that all the time. You hear that on a daily basis. And what a lot of times people don't realize in poltergeist situations, it's generally more times than not an adolescent in the house that's having a bad situation or a bad experience, and they're manifesting that in their life. They're creating that energy. It doesn't have an intelligence. It's just it's a negative energy that is being given intelligence to, and it's very much that tulpa type energy that you're giving energy to, and it just needs to be dissipated, and it needs to be addressed because that child is in that situation and their hormones are going through the roof, and they just don't know how to deal with what they're experiencing. If it's trauma, if it's being attacked in the home, or whatever the case may be, it all circles back. It gets really interesting.
Right. Yeah. That makes more sense. I think that makes more sense.
I had a lady who had an energy that she was picking up in a house. She keeps talking about how it's this energy, how it felt drab and everything like that. She named it. She gave it a name. And so she literally gave it life. And exactly. And I think of all these other conversations, all these other experiments, and that they've done paranormal research where they've named spirits and gave them intelligence. And I'm like, why would you want that in your house? Why are you doing that?
Right. Oh, hold on. I got to do the thing with the TikTok.
Sorry, I'm being weird. I apologize. You'll probably never have to.
Oh, yeah, because that's the weirdest thing that's ever happened on my live. No, there's on TikTok especially. Susan, go to my YouTube. I've got 3 guests over there. We're talking to 2 mediums and the keeper of the keys. We're talking about the paranormal investigation that we just did. My friend Susan, who's also a medium, just popped in. Fantastic medium. She said, hi, I did that. Trauma equals poltergeist activity in my house. It was me. It's just like we can create our own garbage that stays around the house. But on TikTok, especially in the spiritual community, there is a lot of discussion, and people will get so angry about there are no stuck spirits. Spirit's infinitely intelligent. I'm like, but I don't know that it's necessarily a stuck spirit. I think that it's just it could be a whole discussion for hours, I think, in getting different perspectives. But I'd be interested. So Eleanor, as healer and medium, what has been your experience with spirits that, like, in this regard? You like how I put that?
I love that. I love that terminology. So for me, I have encountered, things that aren't exactly like higher vibrations or something like that. I'm sorry, participated in like house clearings and things like that. But as far as somebody, saying, help me, I can't like go to heaven because, I need somebody to help me cross the finish line. In like the 20 years that I have been doing this, I have never encountered that. Um, I have had some where they want to hang around, they're not quite ready to leave. I have seen poltergeist energy, if where we were talking about trauma or if you're incredibly upset. For me, I will be completely honest. If I am in a very overwhelmed mood because I'm in graduate school and I'm a psych nurse, so my career field, it can get very dicey at times. And let's say I'm in a really bad mood, like all of the electronics around me will start going off, start blowing up, sparking, whatever. It isn't just like 1 or 2. So then I know, okay, I need to dial it down because I'm throwing off some things that I need to check myself, obviously, before I wreck myself. That's one of my favorite phrases that I tell myself. So I have encountered like a lot of that energy. And specifically, again, when I work with kids in a psychiatric setting, I do see a lot of that. And, like my colleagues, sometimes they're not, trained mediums. They're, very good nurses, but they'll chalk it up to, coincidences. And there's sometimes I can see things, if like this particular person, they have a lot going on. So if, like I'm in a room or something like that and things are going off, like the TV's flickering, it's turning on and off, the oven lights going on and off, there's sparks shooting out of the outlet, whatever it is. I have seen that. But as far as like any energy, like, trying to manipulate you in that aspect, or no, I completely agree with Brian. Like when you take this energy and you give it a name, what are you doing? You're giving it power. That's exactly what you're doing. You're giving it power. You're feeding into it. So therefore, now you have this energy situation. Now you have this house clearing that's going to definitely be needed. But I've seen things like that too. So it's just kind of like a nice mix of everything, I guess you could say.
For everybody who is watching, if you've never looked at it, there is actually a healing modality that is called spirit rescue therapy. And it's called SRT. If anybody is out there has ever had a chance to look at it, I think it has its place, but at the same time, I don't think it's always an every time situation. Really, truly. I think there's a fine line between it needing to be done and when I think spirit is just there because they want to be there to have a conversation.
I only heard half that. I was talking over here. Sorry.
It's fine.
It was my ADD. I'm like, oh wait, I gotta say something over here. I was telling people over here, like, go to my YouTube. Make sure you watch my YouTube. If everybody wants to see, or Facebook to see what's going on. All right, so let's go back. I want to talk more about these investigations that we did. Some of the evidence. Now, really quick, Kim, do you know when? I don't think I know this. When was the Sunflower built? I've been obsessed with that building for so long. Like if I hit the lottery and I have like $50 million, that thing's getting redone.
Please, that'd be great.
I'll work on it.
Okay, you got to play first. Do you play the lottery?
No.
That's step one. Okay, step one, play the lottery. 1914.
Oh gosh, that's why it feels the way it does. Anytime I walk by it, because I'm pretty convinced I was alive back then.
Okay.
Lifetime. And I just, every time I go by it, I see like the 1920s fanfare. And I see in my clairvoyance, not like actual dead people see, but like I do feel that's when it was like a big thing, like from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Would that make sense for that building?
Yeah. So what I love about, I've only known that building boarded up. Like
Same.
Right before they boarded it up, I was here to help clean it out, and it was already in shambles at that point. But since that time, there's a gentleman that lives right off grounds, and he's, I believe, the third generation in that house. And he is an awesome guy to talk to. But when he was little, he and a brother or a cousin, or maybe both, would walk they had a rail system that ran through town, and they would go to the rail system and carry people's luggage into camp for money. This was such a bustling place that Eleanor, it's your neighbor across the street there. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. You should talk to him. He has awesome stories. But they planned their days around helping people get to camp. And if you look at pictures from the old Sunflower, the Sunflower was a hotel. And a portion of it, they actually moved a building from what is now the area where our administration building sits. And they relocated it to add on to one of the wings of the Sunflower to make it bigger, to add more rooms to it. So it was full. Those rooms were always full of people. But if you look at pictures, there was an upper balcony that they would gather and take pictures, where the upper balcony is filled with people and the porch across the front is filled with people, and they're overflowing into the yard there in front of it. And it's spectacular, the amount of people that would come here to do exactly what you guys do now. And it's just a seasonal camp. I mean, to date, we are a seasonal camp from June to September. And we have online classes in the off season, but it was strictly seasonal, June to September back then. And people would just come in droves to experience and do their work here.
Wow. And that's before the internet.
Yeah.
So as we started coming to camp, there are some amazing YouTube videos that talk about camp and talk about a lot of the stuff that was going on at camp during the back in the day. And one of the things that just floors me as a medium is those that participated in a seance of 250 people. That to me, mind-boggling. Lorenda, mind-boggling. 250 people in a seance.
Yeah.
Just insane. And they did that on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, and there was a sister hotel to the Sunflower. Unfortunately, the Lily burnt down in the late 90s. There was an arson. It was burnt down due to arson. And we have our Western Hotel, which is still in operation, but it's not near as big as what the Sunflower was or the Lily. So, it was a pretty spectacular place. I mean, it still is. Camp Chesterfield is still a spectacular place, but we don't have the volume of people coming here like we used to in person. We have a big following online. We have a lot of folks we had a lot of new folks come just this past weekend for Halloween Fest. A lot of people commented on how I've not seen a lot of these people. These are a lot of new faces, so that was awesome. But
I know that, I talk about Camp Chesterfield a lot, and there are a number of people that are like venturing out and checking it out because they didn't even exist. But
there's people that live here in town that, I've lived here all my life, 30, 40 years, and I had no idea this was over here.
Isn't that crazy? I guess if you're not in that world, if that's not where you're into, like why, or if it never occurred to you. But I think also there's the part where we're in Indiana.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of lids put on things like this.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just not a common knowledge thing. And also back in the day, Anderson, Indiana, which is Chesterfield's kind of nestled in Anderson, right? Or like, it's kind of like Indianapolis and Speedway. Speedway is in Indianapolis.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, because Anderson is to the north, the west, and to the south of us.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but Anderson used to be a big, bustling city with lots of industry.
Yes.
So I think when when those big companies left and Anderson was left kind of in a vacuum, like basically it's no longer it's still a nice little city, but like it's not like it was back in the day.
Right.
I think that had to have made a difference.
Oh, I would imagine.
And all those towns, all those industry towns that even are up on the north of Indianapolis, you got your Kokomo, your Elwood, like all those towns that used to be industry, like especially car industry. Mm-hmm. There were just a lot more people. So I can see why it would be more bustling up there. But once a lot of those towns kind of shut down, I think that probably just took things off the radar. Does that make sense? I don't think that's the blame for it, but also we have to talk about the fact that Camp Chesterfield was known for their physical mediumship. Mm-hmm. They were known for that back in the day, back when the Sunflower was open and thriving, and like back in the early days of spiritualism. And Glenda, Reverend Glenda talks about, we heard stories from my mentors that talked about things walking around floating behind people. But then you have all these people come out that are saying, this is fake. And so I think there's this weird empty hole where people are just now starting to realize, age of Aquarius, like there's a lot of energetic shift. And people are going, maybe there was some legitimacy to
Maybe
it.
there was some truth to that.
Or one of my favorite guys. I don't know if Eleanor or Kim, you guys know Daryl Shoon. You're like, there might be something to that. There might be something to this whole thing.
Well, Lorenda, I have a question. Since you're asking us questions, let me ask you one question.
Sure.
What's the difference between a physical seance and what we experienced over the weekend? Because we were asking spirits for responses and we were getting responses. And they were giving it to us in different ways, just on a different method. We weren't using trumpets. We weren't using slates. But boy, were they showing up and responding.
I think not a whole lot of difference.
Sorry, just being weird.
But no. But since I am not a certified trance medium on the campgrounds, like I could not hold a seance. So what we just did was an investigation.
True.
It's okay. But also with a seance, though, a physical seance, yes, like the apports and things like that. What we did is no different. It just came through in different ways. It just came through in different ways.
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted to ask the question, because I've told a lot of people in a lot of ways, this really reads as a seance if you do it the right way and just in a different way. Really, truly.
I think you're having been to both. I feel like your methodology was different. Your asking instead, because I don't feel like Lorenda the medium was plugged in the same way that she would have been had she been delivering in the setting of a seance. Had she been sitting for seance, she did not deliver. She was not plugged in the way that she would have been to communicate.
And I did that on purpose.
Right.
100,000%. I agree. I don't plug in like that either. I plug in to ask questions and try to read the room and try to help encourage spirit to give us responses. But do I plug in the same way as I would a seance? Absolutely not, because I think that's where you get into a problem. But I also think it's incredible in this situation, you can take somebody who doesn't quite know that they're a medium, doesn't quite know what they're in for, and say, hey, try these headphones on and see what you can do. Because to be legit, those headphones in a lot of ways sound like my chatter in my head.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because I feel, not being and not studying mediumship, I feel like I have more of a connection now than I did before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also interesting that you say that, hearing that chatter in the headphones, that's what it sounds like for you guys, because that was kind of my question was, is this the nonsense that you guys have to sort through all the time?
It is. It is.
1,000%.
Yeah. It's all the mind chatter. Like, sometimes I'm like, listen, slow down.
One at a time. Yeah. At one point, somebody had said, I think we were in the cathedral, and somebody said, one at a time.
Just one step forward, one time. And I will say, for like what I consider a traditional I mean, the thing is, there are just so many different types of seance, to go back to your question. Because if I do a seance with Reverend Glenda, she is the medium. She's bringing through guides. She's bringing through loved ones. She has meditated for a week prior, and there's a limited number of people. And she is embodying and giving spirit a body to work through. You could go to someone like, but we did a physical mediumship workshop that was, I don't want to talk about because I have opinions about it, a year ago, that in theory, if it had been like legit, then things would be apported through. There'd be physical things coming through. I think those things can happen. And I believe that even just that space of sitting and doing spirit art, the Bank sisters sitting on the porch, to me, that is the equivalent of a seance, because you're bringing spirit through and you're creating something physical there, right? That can be the same exact thing. It's just a matter of what degree you're talking about. You can do a Ouija board with a bunch of teenagers, and that's a seance. So you can kind of label it wherever you want. To me, it's when you have more than one person come in and you're all trying to connect to spirit somehow. That to me is a seance.
I
see
think,
what-
I think if you combined what Brian and team were doing this past weekend with a true seance with somebody sitting in or even trance, my gosh, that would be mind blowing.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm totally down for that. And Eleanor, are you a trance medium also?
I am not ready to start official trance development. I have trance classes before, and I have trained before, but I would like to go through the process of becoming like certified trance physical phenomenon medium.
I want to, but I just take Glenda's classes, and I just accept the fact that I will not be allowed to do them on campgrounds because I'm not certified by camp. But I'm good with that.
You guys
Right.
can come hang out with us. We're all about it.
And that's what I'm going to say. I feel like there's other spaces where I could actually allow that to happen because I've had great training. I don't have I don't have the piece of paper that says I can do it. And camp is very funny about that. You cannot just hold a trance mediumship seance on grounds unless you have a certified trance medium in the room. And that's why I was since it was on video, I was like, I'm not doing a seance and we're not.
But see, on a personal level, I'm very okay with that. Making sure that the person who's conducting their event knows what they're doing. I agree full-heartedly that I think that's a good move for camp. I think it helps. I think it helps support camp. And I think it makes sure that there's not funny business going on.
No shenanigans.
Yep, exactly. But also too, I think it's interesting where you talked about where there's a couple people gathered, it's a seance. I hate to be that person, but it also sounds a lot like the Bible. Jesus said where two or more gathered, Spirit's there. And you know what? Spirit showed up for all of us this weekend.
Yeah. So we could technically say, yeah, it was basically a seance. That's exactly what we did. But because of rules, and you want to be respectful of those rules, we just say it different.
And I don't think it was a seance per se, because to be honest, we could have took anybody in that room and gave them the headphones and probably had an experience that would have shocked YouTube. I know Spirit shows up, and this is just a way for people like Kim, I'm going to throw you under the bus, can show up and experience what it's all about and have that evidence to take home and go, yeah, there's something here I just quite can't put my finger on.
Yeah. And there were other people that attended your spirit samplers that are, again, just muggles. They weren't necessarily all mediums. They're not all practitioners. And so what kind of feedback did you get from them? Like outside of Kim, outside of Kim.
Do you remember that crowd that you had when you were putting on your headphones?
Yeah.
They were all our 11 o'clock group that just wouldn't go away. And I mean that in the best way possible. They just hung out and they stayed there because they were enthralled with it. I had one guy come up to me. He's like, I have to leave. I don't want to leave, but I have to leave. I have to go to a job. This was one of the best things I've ever experienced before. And are you guys doing it again? And he had to leave. So it's just what it was. Like, and I think Eleanor, you said the same thing. You came for one and you wanted to sit there and do every single experiences because it was just mind blowing.
Absolutely. Like I was scheduled to leave Iowa to couple and I putting it off until I said, okay, finally, I really have to go now. I can't keep hanging out all day because it was just so incredible. It was one thing after another.
You just like with me, that's all.
That's true too. That is.
I'm kidding, sort of. No, that was a really, and I will say it was interesting because now I got ideas. Now, see, Kim has made the mistake of allowing me on grounds for 2 days and not being an actual vendor or reader. Because now I've experienced this, and now I got opinions and ideas. I'm not going to do anything to help, but I will give you know this.
Play the lottery.
You know this about me. That's the Leo in me. I have all the ideas and then I delegate them. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Sort of. I wish I was kidding.
Sort of.
I wish that about myself. But no, seriously, I do feel like incorporating this kind of offering into other festivals, if camp says okay. And have you gotten feedback from, or have you had conversations?
I haven't heard from the powers that be, or folks whose opinions matter, I guess. That's
all right. Well, I have to make phone calls this week anyway.
Okay.
So I'll throw in my 2 cents, because I think it'd be really cool to have.
I've heard a lot of people's positive feedback. I mean, I've just heard people blowing up about how
from
they were and
from
how
folks
well
that attended. Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, too, guys, for those who are listening, we have about 6,000 photos that Jen took over the weekend. So we've been trying. Oh, only 6,000. We've been trying to process through them. I shared some out last night, and there's just a bunch of very cool photos that are out there. And it's one of those things that, like, not only did we have the equipment going off, her camera was also being very interesting along the way. It started taking photos by itself, folks. I mean, it was one of those things.
And there were times where it wouldn't take photos.
100,000%.
Wow. That's awesome. Oh, I had another question. Oh, I do have a random question that just popped into my head, so I'm going to honor it. At one point, so with me, you did red lights, but in the sunflower, when the day before, you had tried blue lights. What's the difference?
Yes. So we use different lights depending on the situation. So they both work for spirit. They've just been doing a lot of research over the pond as far as what light does what. Red light tends to reflect, tends to show us more physical forms, more ethereal. You'll see more stuff, versus blue light tends to encapsulate it. I have a friend who has a photo, and you can literally see a black orb going across the screen. And so it just literally encapsulates it. So it just presents it in a different way, not a negative way, just gives you a different view on it. And so I think that's pretty incredible. The only problem is that when you start getting into the greens and yellows and stuff like that, you're too much like normal light, and it doesn't work as well. But those reds and blue really give it a chance to really manifest and really be seen.
I love that, because I don't know that I've really, in the investigations I've done, the people I work with, I don't know that they might use lights when they're on their own, doing their own little investigations. But, oh yeah, I've been taking notes for my people,
I think one of the things is, if there's anybody who has a team listening, switch those white lights out for red lights, and you're going to notice incredible shifts in what you catch, what you see, because it just works so much better.
Yeah. I can't wait to see all the pictures. I'm really looking forward to seeing, not all the pictures, not all 6,000. But also, I am terrible. And now I know that your team is really, really good at debunking. Like when we were looking through a few of them, they were like, nope, that looks like your pant leg. That doesn't look like, it looks like light. They were very, very good at being able to go fake, like of their own pictures. Like, not it.
Yep.
So that's got to be a grueling process to get through.
Yeah, Sunday morning they found me in the cafeteria where we were holding the festival, and they're like, "Hey, we need to talk about something." And I'm like, "Oh no, what happened?" and Jen brought her camera in, and she's like, "We got to debunk this photo." And it was, I mean, we spent probably a good half hour, and then we went into where they were and did some more investigation and debunked, and hey, let's talk to this person and make sure he would have more information. And they were golden. It was a tried and true photo. There was really something there. So it was pretty cool. These guys are true in what they're doing. I was highly impressed. Not that I doubted you guys by any means.
The name of the game here is, it's like, as a medium, I can do the job all day long. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that to tout myself or anything like that. I can do the job all day long. But when you're using the equipment, when you're using this stuff, I become the biggest scientific mind out there, the biggest skeptic, because I want real proof. I want real evidence. Let me see it, and let's figure out if this is real or not. If it's not
Well,
real,
I think somebody mentioned it in the chat earlier. I mean, there are a lot of skeptics out there, and especially this day and age, it's easy to be a skeptic because somebody can create something so easily with all of the technology that we have out there, right? So I get that. I understand the skepticism that can come from something like this, but I'm here to tell you, I watched the equipment with my own two eyes, and with solid feet on the ground, I am here to tell you that it's true. I mean, there was nothing extra that they were doing. There's no doctoring of anything that took place. I mean, it is, a picture would be taken and then immediately shown to me, and it was boom, there it was, you know. And I mean, you're also seeing things with your own eyes, with the, like he said, with the red lights and the blue lights. There was it Friday? We were in the Sunflower, and you walked down that hallway, setting those blue lights, and there was an image that walked or crossed his path, and we were trying to figure out what's the placement. There were 3 blue lights, and were you in front of that blue light or were you behind it? Because something crossed your path, and I mean, it was seconds from the time that he took a step and that picture was taken, and we're trying to figure it out. So I mean, it's all in real time that this is taking place.
I was talking to Jen, the next time we do something like this, and if you guys have us back, what I want to do is I want to bring a TV monitor and literally let her start popping these photos up for people to start looking at that.
That's a good idea.
So that way, at the end of the sessions, we can start going through them and letting people see what's going on. So this way, there isn't a delay in the information going out, because as you know, Kim, we just let the photos go, and you know, it's set the camera down and walk away. That's really what we were doing, and I think that's what a lot of people get afraid of. They don't want to just set it down and walk away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I'm totally down to do this again. And also, I feel like I need these headsets, and then Eleanor and I can just get the keys from Kim and go sit in that room and just hang out there and see what happens. I just feel like, now what I feel like as we went further along when I was in the headsets, both times, because I did headsets both days, I feel like the longer the spirit was trying to communicate, the more I was understanding. Because at first it sounded like they were talking literally backwards, which could scare certain people, especially in Indiana. You know, people who have belief systems like, those are demons, and they're not. But I could tell they were trying to figure it out. But as we went along, like Don especially, and what's crazy is even though I was hearing different voices, I feel like that was Don most of the time trying to find the right frequency, trying to teach himself how to communicate best with me. Because I'd hear like 6 voices at once, or I'd hear like do 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 do. So, but I feel like the more you do it, especially in the same space, the more you do it, I would think those spirits would be more, not necessarily more communicative, but we would understand more because they were nonstop.
Well, also too, what I say is, think about it this way: if you died tomorrow, would you know how to manipulate the equipment? Everybody laughs and says yes, but there is a learning curve to this. You have to get them to learn to respond to how to work the equipment. It's asking your team to step in, manipulate. Hey guys, can you help me make sense of this? Hey, can you have them step back? Hey, can you bring a talker up? It's still the same thing. It's just doing it in a different way and making it work. And you know what, Lorenda, you heard us do it. We did a prayer every single time, every time before we started, because we knew it was necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to set that. To set. Did Brian tell you we're gonna have a pick of Don? No, that's awesome. Wow.
That would be awesome.
That would be oh my gosh, that'd be insane. Well, he may have told me, but I may have like read it and forgot. It's a big possibility. I don't
We
know.
have a lot of fun pictures that we're still processing through, and it's trying to debunk stuff and trying to see what we have and what we don't have, and being able to present it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm gonna need a link to those the headphones. So
I can get you the link, and I can get you all the information for it all. And for the record, the tablet and the headphones we were using were noise canceling, and that tablet had nothing on it. It had no SIM card, had no nothing on it while it was being worked with.
Well, I think that's really important to know because again, spirit boxes or a lot of those apps have built-in dictionaries, as you put it. Like they have words that spirit can use, supposedly, to plug in words, and the people are fascinated. Like, oh my God, did you see they said that? I'm like, yeah, except somebody 10 minutes ago said it, so they picked it up and they repeated it. Not they, the powers, but the box, the app.
Yep. And that's the other thing. This does not have a microphone. We actually know somebody who actually has a microphone shoved in the jack to make sure it does not pick up your voice and it still operates, which is absolutely incredible. And that's the other reason why I say ask intelligent questions. Do the counting game. Do some of this stuff, because if it's just, it can't count. It can't have these conversations like the cards. When you hold the cards up, what's on it? There's no way for that system to know that.
Right. Now, and I will say one thing that I think that is important, going back to the counting game, was awesome. By the way, we got to talk about the counting game. That was cool. Because I didn't realize what you guys were doing until I went and watched the video later. And it all made sense later. But they get creative in their responses too. Going back to the happy. Can you say happy? Feeling. Ha. Like they were giving us examples of happy or what happy means. So they were giving themselves they weren't just regurgitating a word. They were showing their intelligence that they were comprehending. So they were thinking outside the box, But then when you do play those games, it's just mind blowing. Like 1, 2, 3, and then I think I said 4.
You went to 13 for us. You went all the way up to 13. So I mean, it was pretty incredible.
It was crazy, and I like how they're just like, nah. And I could tell they were trying to say something. So it's not that they weren't saying it. I just couldn't hear it. It was unintelligible. And that's why I say that. By the way, for those of you who don't know, like that's when I say, if you go watch the video, the idea is to let people know that I'm hearing things. It's not dead silent, but I'm hearing things. But it's just I couldn't understand what they were saying. Or I noticed I was looking around a lot because I actually tend to turn to where the voices come from, and I'll do that in mediumship too. And I kept, okay, you're over there. Wait, are you over here? Because I could hear it coming in different places, if that makes sense. So it felt like it was from different frequencies or different, like over here, even though they weren't over here, they could have been, I guess. But anyway, it was just really cool how spirit goes a little bit above and beyond to play the game, I think. And just like they could have said the one card, they could have, when you said, what is this card? They could have said Joker, but they said person.
Yeah.
That's really, it showed their intelligence. And at the end of the day, I always say I want intelligent spirits, and they were just taking it to the next level. They really were. They were showing us they had it had an intelligence to them.
Right. Oh, at what point you said you started to tap me out? What? Yeah. I can't remember. What was it? Just because of a time thing, or like, let's bring her out? Was there? I can't remember why you were going to tap me out the first time.
It was just like a time thing. It was just we had what, Eleanor? What did we hit, a half hour or? It was, we were starting to hit where we're like, we'll just tap her out. I go to tap you out, and we are literally told not to.
Yes.
We are told not to. Before my hand hit your shoulder, I was told stop.
Wow. Not yet, or something like not yet, or not.
Exactly.
I can't remember what I said, but that was wild. Because again, I'm in my headset, no clue what you all are saying, no clue what's happening around, and how those answers came through. That was wild. And I did feel like my grandparents were there, or one of my grandparents was there. I noticed I was talking to myself a lot. I do that. in my meditation or when I'm in the zone, I did invite one of my guides in to help my frequency so I could understand more. Or no, I was saying, okay, Lily, help them out. That could help them out because I've done that in trance. That's why I was going to circle back to trance mediumship. When I do that and going back to intelligence and them learning how to use their tools, I sat in a trance class with Reverend Glenda. She's like a rock star to me. I talk about her all the time. And I sat with one of my classmates who was just learning trance, and their guide came in, and I saw the transfiguration. You could see it. You could see the transfiguration. And there was an intelligent conversation, but it was very broken. It was very broken. And then Reverend Glenda said, okay, the spirit said, okay, I have to go now. It's like they had never done this before, right? So, or they had, for whatever reason, they couldn't stay long. And so the spirit was trying to leave, but then you could see the transfiguration was still kind of there. And the person opened their eyes and you could see this glazed over look. And Reverend Glenda touches her knee and goes, all you have to do, you need to completely step out of her energy. Thank you. And you saw this, and she was all of a sudden back. It was cool. And I was like, I got questions. I'm always the one in class to be like, I've got questions. And she's like, oh, I knew you would. Love her. And so I said, okay, if they have all this access on the other side, why was it hard? Why do they need you to move them out? And she goes, oh, because he'd never done that before. He'd never stepped into a body and used a body as a tool before. So the more she does this with that guide, the easier the transition will be.
1,000%.
Yeah. Yeah. And where I feel like I didn't have that, but I think it's because I'm a natural trance medium and I didn't know it. Or my guides are like, yeah, I've been there, done that. Come on, here we go. Like, I feel like they either had experience with it before or there was something different because I didn't experience that. I couldn't understand why that was a thing. And which goes back to just because you've never experienced something doesn't make it real or doesn't make it not real. But I really believe that with this equipment, going back to equipment, whether it's our bodies or headphones or a box or lights, it's still a learning curve. You can teach them. And I think the ones who are ever curious will come play.
And I think that's the name of the game, asking for them to come play. I even do that as far as mediumship. If I'm teaching a class, I'll ask the people, I'm like, we're going to ask those spirits that want to step forward to play, because some spirits don't want to play. Some spirit just wants to show up and do their thing and leave. They don't want to play, but there's some people whose mom will step in and be there for 45 minutes and play round robin questions because she's willing to do it. The next person goes, I'm here for a second and I'm going to step away. So sometimes this is the stuff that is incredible and everything else like that. Also, I'm going to side note, remember the playing cards and remember the numbers? You guys used to do something on campus. At camp, remember the billets?
The billets. I don't.
Where you would take a number or write something on a billet and you would let the medium would be blindfolded and they would say that number. They would say the information on the card. Same concept. They were already prepared for that conversation, just in a different way. And that's kind of what we were doing that night. Just a little bit different, but it's a way to engage spirit to see if there's an intelligence there. It's just a cool approach.
You ever wonder if the spirit's just like, nah, I don't like that game. That's stupid.
They did that to you. They did that to you. We're not doing that. Okay.
Fine. We're not playing that game. Get all like, oh yes, Nancy Dorland uses bullets. That is one medium I really, 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 I know people that can get me with Hoyt's like doesn't live here anymore. Right? He lives elsewhere. He's all over. So I might need to go find Hoyt, wherever Hoyt is. Hoyt is known for his physical mediumship and doing things like with, I don't know if it's AppWorks. I don't think AppWorks. It's like, it's there. You put a piece of paper or something in a basket, and he does all the things. You have all the things, and and then at the end you've got art that comes out of the basket that nobody touched. You're muted, Brian.
100,000%. That's what Hoyt does. It's very much that spirit art and stuff like that. And that's why I was talking about billets, because think about it, spirits used to that. They're used to those billets. They really are. So I was just trying to engage back to what they were used to see if they would play.
Yeah. And I guess if you're on a Camp Chesterfield ground, it would make sense to go back to like do the things that they would be used to. I'd be interested to see if we can get the Bang sisters to come in, some headsets.
Kim, can I talk? Do you mind?
She's
You don't know what I'm going to talk about. So.
I'm not one that would know what you're going to say.
We actually had a chance to play on the Bang sisters front porch.
Oh, yes.
This was one of our other times that we were at camp, and it was the first time people got to see our equipment. And we were hanging out on the Bang sisters front porch. We actually had them talk. We had them say their name, and they actually validated that they did art and stuff. So when I say we've had other experiences there, we just couldn't get the Bang sisters front porch for the weekend. So,
well, I feel like we can bully somebody into that, can't we? I don't know. Does somebody live there now? I don't even know. Does somebody live in their house now?
Todd Leonard. That's Todd Leonard's house. Yeah. And so they actually just closed it up. So we could have, in all honesty, that's my fault for not conveying that we could have gone over there. I know we'll just have to do it again.
Absolutely.
Forget keeper of the keys. You got access to all the things there. Kim.
I mean, it's an open porch.
It is.
But it is a private residence, so don't everybody run to his porch.
Can't be doing that. Because then Kim will be required to take you out. Not required, but it'd be fun.
Can we address that real quick? And because we actually had a situation in Ohio where this went down, and I just kind of want to make a general conversation. So if you're wanting to do this, if you're wanting to investigate, if you want to go check out the grounds at Camp Chesterfield or somewhere, make sure you're having conversations. You're having conversations with the discussion about, hey, do we have permission to do this? Is it okay we do this? Do we make sure you're not trespassing? Making sure you have these conversations, because just to go on property anywhere and just do this is a gross invasion of privacy for the homeowner and for people's houses. And I think it's a really good point to remind people that camp is people's houses. People don't want people crawling around their house at all hours. And so it's definitely a conversation that you need to have conversations. If it's something you're interested in doing, I'm sure reach out to someone. Normally there's a conversation that will come up, and there's always a discussion that can be had. But at the same time, just don't go out there and take it upon yourself to do it.
Right. And the art museum is a perfect example. It's not like it's just open all the time. There's not business hours. That's just for events only. Or when they're doing tours. It's not like something you can just, I'm going to go to the art museum today. Doesn't work that way. Now, okay, so Meg and Michael brought up a good point. I was calling it spirit art, but is it? I heard precipitated.
Yeah, so what the Bang sisters did was precipitated art. Yeah, she makes a very good point there.
Yeah.
Terminology, but very, very different things too.
Well, because Meg, in fairness, by the way, Meg's going to be on the show November 14th. Did she tell you that yet, Kim?
Yeah, she did actually. You told me first. You shared it with me first, and then she followed up.
Well, she was working. So, and see, I don't know anything about any of that stuff. So I'm really, Meg, remind me that that's what we need to talk about, is the difference between spirit art. I understand spirit art because Meg does spirit art. She's like very spirit. And look, I even have some of her art. Right there. I've got another one too, but it's in the bag upstairs still.
Ever present.
That's right. Meg's always here. And I think her name. Yeah, and I've got her name up here because we did. And so Eleanor's.
Oh, that's your poster. I just recognized that. Oh my gosh. So yeah, That's from Spirit Fest just this past year when Lorenda was
on the platform with
one of the
Eleanor.
stars for our super gala in the cathedral.
I talked about that a lot because it was awesome. It was really cool. Me and my platform shoes.
It's awesome.
So can I ask Lorenda, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And I don't know what the response is going to be because it's actually a completely ad lib conversation. And Eleanor, I'd love to hear your conversation on this too. Have you guys ever done a red light message service before?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. So back in the day, when I first came to camp probably about years ago, we did things like we had like services or physical phenomena in the chapel. We haven't done that for a very long time. There was actual red light services, that they would do at nighttime for special events or something like that, or every so often. We did do this.
We were talking about doing that here at the shop coming up as far as one of our message services that we do, one of our platform events. And so we were talking about it and trying to figure it out and have Jen come in and photograph, but I didn't know if it was a thing that was ever done or anything like that. So I appreciate the conversation, Eleanor.
Mm-hmm. We used to do a lot of physical phenomena. I was just talking about this, how before the window, we had special, like, makeshift things that we put over the windows for like trumpet seances or a physical phenomena seance that we would do in the chapel.
I feel like we need to have this movement to bring stuff back.
Bring it back? Yes.
I'm just saying. I mean, I'm down to bring stuff back because I feel like I feel like there's a lot of new people getting involved in camp now. More people are taking classes, more people are coming to the camp and going to the more services I go to, the more people I see. I'm seeing more presence at camp in person. So I think that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I've never even done a red light service. I'm assuming that's like similar to what we were doing. Like you put the red lights and you do the thing and you try to capture things.
The way my envisioning is do a message service and just have a whole bunch of red light bulbs going and seeing what happens and what manifests while the service is going on. That was kind of the thought process for us.
Interesting. I think it'd be cool. I'm going to be on the platform. Speaking of, I really need to turn my availability in by today, I believe, or tomorrow. So I'm going to actually be on the platform. I wonder if we could, I don't know, Eleanor, I feel like we could be movers and shakers and all this. And I bet Kim would give us keys. I'm kidding.
I would absolutely.
You know what's going through my head right now is that I'm going to have to change all those annoying light fixtures to red lights.
I can hold the ladder.
It's the globes that are so hard to get off.
Just use some red floodlights. That would be just use some red floodlights and do it that way. Also, you can also get the red light strips. We also have those, and just use them up front.
Yep. Or just permanently install like Wi-Fi bulbs, that I can change from my phone, whatever color I want.
That could be fun.
Oh, look at that.
Solution oriented. I know if
you're so going to get Kim in trouble. I can just tell now.
Won't be the first time.
It wouldn't. But I didn't start it last time. I was an innocent bystander.
Hey, I wanted to mention real quick. You were talking about how you come onto camp if you wanted to do any sort of exploring at camp. Yes, we are. We do have private residences here. We do have a lot of public inviting areas. We have nearly 40 acres worth of ground here at our property, and we do have public hours, if you will. But beyond that, if you were wanting to come onto the grounds to do any sort of investigating of that nature, that is something that would have to be run by our board of directors. So if you wanted to come and explore in that manner, please get in touch visit our website, campchesterfield.com, and there's explore through that website, and there's some email addresses listed, I believe, on the homepage there down towards the bottom that you could reach out to somebody and let them know what it is that you're wanting to do, and then we can go that route and see if we can get you in here to do something. But I tell you what, these events, we have 3 large festivals or 2 large festivals, and then as long as we continue Halloween Fest, we'll have 3. Hopefully it'll be larger. We had 300 attendees, and a third of those attended the Spirit Quest that we had this past weekend. So if we continue with Halloween Fest, we'll have 3 festivals throughout the year, and that's pretty awesome for what we have going on here in Chesterfield. But come visit us during those festivals. They're a good time. Everybody loves it. Our other 2 festivals bring in about 2,500 people throughout the weekend. So if we bring Brian and his group back, I have no doubt that you will enjoy what they have to offer. And then, of course, he's got his own stuff going on over in Ohio. So
yep. We have a bunch of stuff. I'm actually at Old Paulding Jail this weekend. We're doing an event there. We do a bunch of psychic fairs all throughout Ohio. We have our Victorian Tea coming up in December. And is when we do our Victorian Tea, there's also table tipping. So we do a lot of weird stuff too.
If I'm table tipping, it's because I'm just an angry Leo.
It's fine. We'll make it happen. I didn't say throwing the table.
No, okay, me tipping. Tell me not. Yeah. I know it probably shocks you, but I have an attitude. Whatever. All right, we are coming up on our 2 hours, friends. What I'd like for each of you to do is, probably not contact Kim, because I would say she doesn't do readings and she just like fixes things. You can send her love, but she does not make decisions on Camp Chesterfield. Now, if you are a practitioner and you are interested in, actually, that's not true. She does all the things for Camp Chesterfield for
the festivals.
The festivals. So if you're interested in the festivals and you've got questions about that, you can contact her through. Should we have them go through?
So if you go to the website and you go to events, the various festivals are listed there, and each of the festivals has their own Gmail email. So it's either campchesterfield.halloweenfest@gmail.com or campchesterfield.spiritfest@gmail.com or campchesterfield.mayfest@gmail.com. So if you're interested in being an exhibitor during any of those, reach out, or you can find all the information on the events tab of the campchesterfield.com website.
Now,
yeah,
is there,
questions.
Is there a way for someone like myself? I know there is. For me to if I just want to, I know I want to be at all 3 events, that I can just register for all 3 all at once.
So right now, unfortunately, none of them are available to register on the website. We're getting a new IT person. We've got an IT is kind of up in the air right now. So our volunteer IT person is working her little tail off, but we're all working through that. Yes. Lots of love to her.
So much love to Sandy.
But yeah, if you want, email me at any one of those email addresses, and or even at the admin email address that's listed on there, and they'll forward that to me, and we'll work out how you could get registered for all 3 of those at once. We'll work through that together in the interim.
And make sure you're following the socials. I think you guys have Facebook and Instagram, but you do not have TikTok yet, right?
That is correct. Not yet. I've got a lot of irons in the fire, so I'm working through that myself too.
Fine. We can talk about it.
But yeah, so Camp Chesterfield Festivals is on Facebook, and there's a lot of updates that are done on that Facebook page.
Yeah, you guys have done a really good job with, even during the festivals, keeping things going and posting pictures and letting people know when things are coming up. So I thought you had a good social media game this last couple events there, Kim.
Well, thanks. I tried.
I'm impressed. All right, Eleanor, where can we find you? And also, Eleanor, I just have to tout on her for a second. Fantastic medium. I got to read on the platform with her. The energy exchange was just, y'all know I don't like to hang out with too many people. I could share space, and without sounding creepy, I could share space with Eleanor for hours. We did. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't even supposed to go back on Sunday I was supposed to just go for one day, and I went back to hang out with Eleanor and then hang out with Brian, and the energy was so good. Fantastic medium. And if you guys, I know you're just getting settled back here at Camp Chesterfield, where can they find you if people want to look into your services or readings?
Right now on Facebook. So I am actually getting ready to launch my own business. That is one of my goals for 2025. So it is going to be called Omens by Eleanor, the Gothic Medium. I was given that name over Spirit Fest, and I absolutely just loved it. People were looking for me, and they're like, "Where's the Gothic Medium?" Right here, it's your friendly neighborhood goth. Um, so right now, I am setting up an actual business account for Instagram. I am going to figure out how to do TikTok, but I am always available through Facebook, and then obviously the old school things of like email and phone number. But
What's your email? What's the best email people can get a hold of you?
it is super simple. It's little.eleanor, ELEANORE @hotmail.com. Yes, I still use Hotmail. It still works. I love it. So I hang on to it.
Why not? Why
Yeah.
not? If you'd have busted out with AOL.com, we'd be having a serious conversation.
Yeah. So that as of right now, that's the best way. But I was tinkering around with like business accounts last night, but I kind of get through this hump of clinicals and exams for the next 2 weeks. And then after that, it is full throttle for Omens by Eleanor, the Gothic Medium.
Yeah. So we'll probably have, once you get through that stuff, we'll probably have you back on to chat.
Ooh.
My personal mission is to get her a TikTok account, because I think you guys would absolutely love her energy, as you can see already if you're on the YouTubes. So awesome. So little.eleanor with an E at the end at hotmail.com. Excellent. Brian, tell us how people get a hold of you. You do
The
media.
best way to get a hold of me always is I have a very strong Facebook presence. For those who do not know, you can always find me on Facebook. I have a TikTok account that I don't use well. So if you message me on it, you may need to pester me to make sure I identify you. Or you can text me, is always one of the best ways. You can text me at 330-274-7353. I do offer readings. I also do classes and a whole bunch of other things along the way. And if you're interested in some of the paranormal talk, I can also help you find equipment and stuff like that as well.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to work with all of you again in the future. And I can't thank you enough for coming on and spending this couple hours with me, just chatting about our awesome experiences. And I admire all three of you so much. And I just thank you. And happy Halloween.
Yes. Blessed Saw.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, bless you.
Thank you. Happy Halloween as well.
All right. Thank you all. And so make sure you guys are following also, again, socials, check all the socials, all the things. You have all the information, and hope to see you all again soon. All right. Thanks, friends. Have a fantastic day. Bye.